Hello everybody, today we're going to do a special tier ranking, and this is going to be for the license plates for all 50 states plus DC. I figured I'll do this video for the holidays. It's a good time to step back from politics. Let's do something a little bit different. So we've got tiers A, B, C, D, and F. I'm probably not going to use the F tier unless something is overwhelmingly horrible. There's a lot of different license plate rankings on Tier Ranker. This is one of the few that showed the full plate. That's what we want. We want to see everything. And I glanced over some of these. It's going to be difficult. This has nothing to do with the state. This is just about the plate. And this did not really need to be said, but this is going to be completely subjective. You're going to have your own criteria, and there's probably not going to be any bad ones. So I have no idea how this is going to go. And I know some states have different or multiple plates. All I'm going to do is go by what's here. So hopefully you're having a great holiday. And to help make it easier, let's take a stroll through all these plates. Let's see what we've got. Let's start here in Alabama. So there's all zeros. That's going to be irrelevant. We're going to see what's in the background. We've got the state at the top. Looks like we might have some sort of a lake scene. It's not bad. Down at the bottom, we've got a URL. That I think is tacky. That brings it down. But the rest of the color looks good. I think we could start this off right in the middle at the C tier. Next, we've got Alaska. Looks like a big grizzly bear in the middle. Probably some snow in the background with the sun coming up. That looks okay. I'm going to also put that in the C tier. Next, Arizona, Grand Canyon State. And we've got a western scene with the sun coming up in the background. That one actually looks pretty good for me. I'm going to put that at least in the B tier. I don't know how much we're going to have in the A. Maybe I should start it in the A tier. If I need to, I'll bring it back down to B. Next, we've got Arkansas, the natural state. There's a gem in the middle, but the background, it's pretty bland. It's not awful, but I'm going to probably put that in the D tier for now. Next, it's California. The font on California stands out, but again, they've got the URL down at the bottom, and it's a plain white background. So this is a plate I think we see a lot of in the movies, so there's some notability behind it, but I'm actually not the biggest fan of this plate. It's a little bit too plain for a state that has a lot going on. I'm also going to probably put this in the D tier. Next, Colorado. Of course, we've got some mountains. It's a reasonable plate. I think it suits the state. I'm going to put that in the B tier. Next, Connecticut, the Constitution State. Not a lot going on in this plate. There's a mini outline of the state in the top left. The background doesn't necessarily have to have a lot going on, but this is a little bit weak. We'll put this one in the C tier. Next, Delaware, the first state. That color is distinct, but there is definitely minimal happening on this plate. This is a real tough tier ranking. I'm going to just put that also in the middle of the pack. Next, looks like we've got DC and taxation without representation. There's a little bit going on in the middle of the plate, but otherwise it's a plain white background. I get the slogan at the bottom, but to me that looks like it would be more from a campaign and not necessarily a plate. I would also think they would have more going on considering it's DC. So that is actually kind of a lackluster plate. I'm going to put that in the D tier. Next, Florida. Sunshine State. We've got some oranges, and we've got myflorida.com at the top. Again, the URL kind of lowers it for me. I like the outline of the state. That one will go with the C tier. Next, Georgia, Peach State. And I think at the bottom, this is probably the county for this plate. I don't really like the county on the plate, and I've seen some other Georgia plates. But with this one right here, there's definitely a scene going on in the background. I guess it's okay. There's probably going to be a lot in the C tier, and Georgia is going to be no exception. Next, Hawaii, Aloha State. And we've got a rainbow in the background. That's not really wowing me too much. When I think of Hawaii, I think of pineapples or beaches, palm trees, maybe even coconuts or a lei. I get it, it's not a state quarter, you don't have to load it up, but just a rainbow and an otherwise plain background, I think that's actually going to also bring it down to the D tier. Next, scenic Idaho. Down at the bottom, we've got famous potatoes. We've got some mountains in the background, trees on the bottom, and a sort of brown at the top. I like the color on this plate. I like the background. Scenic Idaho is a little cheesy, but I think this is good enough for the B tier. Next, Illinois, land of Lincoln. We've got a little bit of Lincoln on the left, some sort of a light silhouette in the background of Chicago, possibly the state capital. Not the most colorful plate, but that's good enough for the C tier. Next, Indiana. And I'm actually not sure what's going on in this plate down at the bottom. I thought there would be Crossroads of America, something like that. There is a scene on here, but this particular one is kind of unimpressive. I think I'm actually going to put this down in the D tier. Next, Iowa. And again, the county name at the bottom. We've got some city and rural outlines in the top left and right. Grass down at the bottom. I think it's an alright plate. Let's throw that next to Illinois in the C tier. Next state, Kansas. I'm not totally sure what they have going on in the background. Maybe that's the state seal, could be the state flag, but there's really nothing else on this plate other than a light blue background. It's kind of borderline CD. If they were going to show off more of what they were trying to show off, I think they would get this into C, but right now I'm going to put this down in the D tier. Let's pull out just a little bit. Looks like the next state is Kentucky. It's completely blank. We've got a space for the county at the bottom and an outline of the state on the left. At the very top, I think that says Bluegrass State. That is tough to see. I think that should have been a little bit bigger, and I don't think this plate is really all that distinct. I'm gonna have to put this down in the D tier. I feel bad putting some of these down in D. The plates are all fine in their own way, and the states are great, but when it comes to a tier ranking like this, you gotta be a little bit critical. Next, Louisiana. Sportsman's Paradise, and that's probably a pelican in the background. The Louisiana font is stylized at the top. That's gonna go in the middle in the C tier. Next, Maine, Vacation Land down at the bottom. We've got a pine cone and a bird on the left. Looks like some distant forest down at the bottom in the background. The rest of the background is kind of a plain white. I think it's an okay plate, suits Maine well enough. That is gonna go in the C tier. Next, we've got Maryland, and that's it for text on this plate, and I'm really not sure what's actually happening in the background here. Maybe I should know, but it's just not coming to me. But that's really all there is to this plate, and for that reason, I'm going to actually put this in the D tier. Next, Massachusetts. I know in some of the previous videos, I've gotten comments about New England and Massachusetts in particular. Let's see how the state does on their plate. Looks like we've got a completely plain white background. The bottom, we do have the Spirit of America. It's a little bit bland, but I think that is enough to get it up into the C tier. Let's pull out again a little bit. Next, it might be Michigan, but it's actually pure Michigan. Michigan.org at the bottom. I do like the M in Michigan. It looks like the blue at the bottom is probably going to be representative of Lake Michigan. I think it's in the middle. That goes in the C tier. Next, Minnesota. 10,000 lakes at the bottom. Outline of the state in the middle. The top left, we've got Explore. The top right looks like some woods. There is stuff on this plate, but at the same time, it looks a little plain. That is going to go in the middle of the pack. Next, Mississippi. I think down at the bottom, that's going to be another county name. The middle is probably going to be a Magnolia. The stylized writing in Mississippi, I think, is kind of cool. The background is plain, but that's going to be good enough for the C tier. Next, it's Missouri. And I have seen Missouri plates before, but I have not seen this one. And it looks like this is the bicentennial plate. We've got 1821 and 2021. So this is not going to be the regular plate. I can't exactly tell what's happening in the background, but I'm going to say that's good enough for the C tier. Next, it's Montana, the treasure state. We've got a big outline of the state, and that probably makes sense because Montana is a pretty huge state. The purple background is a little lacking, so I think that might keep it from the B tier, but we're going to put that again in the C tier. Next, it's Nebraska. It's hard to tell exactly what's happening in the background there. I guess it looks okay. We're going to also throw that in the C tier. Nevada is next. The bottom says home means Nevada, and I think there's also some mountains back there. This plate is really not speaking out to me. It's borderline CD. I'm going to put this in the D tier, but no offense to Nevada. Next, it's New Hampshire. Live free or die. The background looks like the old man of the mountain. I like the font at the bottom. This is a tough call. I'm going to put this in the C or the B tier. I'm going to be nice. We'll bump it up to the B tier. Next, it's New Jersey, Garden State. Kind of a fading light yellow background. We've got the state in the middle. That is going to go right in the middle of the pack in the C tier. Next, New Mexico, Land of Enchantment. And it also says USA. That, I think, is unnecessary. And we've got part of the flag in the middle. That is going to go in the C tier. Next, New York. The bottom, we've got Excelsior. We've got the state in the middle. Looks like kind of a countryside in the background. It's not really what I think of when I think of New York, but I guess it's okay. That's going to go in the C tier. Next, North Carolina, First in Flight. Looks like the Wright brothers plane in the background. That's also going to be okay. That's good enough for the C tier. Let's pull out yet again, and we have North Dakota. That's next. This is probably a good enough scene for the state. I cannot see what it says in the lower left, but in the lower right, probably going to be a buffalo or bison. It's an alright plate. It's somewhere in the high C tier. We'll throw it next to the rest. And we go to Ohio, county name at the bottom. That's a lot going on in the background. That's a sunrise. This is probably a unique specialty type of plate. Those are hard to judge. I guess it's fine. We're also going to throw that in the C tier. Next, Explore Oklahoma. Got the website at the bottom, the bird silhouette in the background. It's kind of borderline CD. We're going to put that in the D tier. Next, Oregon. They're going for trees on their plate. Trees are usually pretty good. This I don't think is all that exciting. We're going to put it in the C tier. Next, Pennsylvania. VisitPA.com. That looks too much like a billboard. It's borderline CD. We'll make some space here. We'll put it in the D tier. Next, Rhode Island. Ocean State. The top left, we've got an anchor. And in the background, I do see some waves. That's kind of subtle. I like it. That is going to go higher. That is going to go in the B tier. That is close to the A tier, and I've only got one in there so far. We'll come back to it. The next state is South Carolina. I think that says, While I Breathe, I Hope. I like the scene going on in the background. I like the color. That is actually also going to go in the B tier. Next, South Dakota. We've got Mount Rushmore in the background. However, that does look kind of just like a postcard. I know they're going to use Mount Rushmore, but I wish they would have done something a little bit different. It also says Great Faces, Great Places. That's going to go in the C tier. Next, we've got Tennessee, another state with the website at the bottom. I'm not sure what's going on in the middle. I like at the top, they do have the outline of the state around Tennessee. Top left, they've got the volunteer state. That does bring it up. Without those, I think it would go to D, but for those reasons, we're going to put it up into C. Next, it's Texas, the Lone Star State. And we've got the star on the top left, a small picture of the state in the middle. But this is sort of like California. This is a big state and there's a lot associated with it. They did not really go all out on their plate, but there's no cheesy URL, so it's going to be good enough for the C tier. Next, Utah, Life Elevated. And we've got a scene of the arches in the background. I think that looks a little bit too cartoony for me, so that's going to lower it a little bit, but overall, it's still going to go in the C tier. Next, Vermont, a Green Mountain state. Plus, there's a lot of green going on in this plate. That I think is not too bad, actually, but there's really no outlines or other pictures, so that lowers it a little bit. It is borderline CB, but the green suits the state for the slogan. That is going to go into the B tier. Next, Virginia. Down at the bottom, we've got Virginia is for lovers and a URL. That's another one. It kind of seems a little tacky. I'm going to put that actually in the high D tier. Next, we've got Washington, Evergreen State. We've got the mountain in the background. It's not bad. I still think it's a little bit worse than the Colorado plate. The name of the state is off center. It's in the top left, but I think it has just enough of the elements that I like, but we're going to put that just barely into the B tier. We've got 3 left. Next is West Virginia, Wild Wonderful. Again, the outline of the state in the middle. It's not too bad. I think it's all right. It's going to go somewhere in the C tier. I'm going to put it down there at the end. Next is Wisconsin, America's Dairyland. Small scene in the top right, plain white background. Not too exciting, but I think there's just enough here to get into the C tier. And the last state, that is Wyoming. Looks like another full color scene in the background. There's the famous cowboy silhouette. It doesn't really say anything else on this plate. I think it's fine. I think we can put that in the C tier. So that's all of them. So this is what we've got. Only one in the A tier, and that is Arizona. I could probably tweak some of these, bump a couple up, bump a couple down. A lot of these plates just have subtle differences in the font or the background. It's tough, and I know I'm overly critical, but this isn't really about talking up or criticizing any of the states or the plates. It's mostly just to take a stroll through, see how things look in different states, and it was fun to go through these. So don't put a lot of weight on the rankings. Yeah, there's a ton in the C tier, but I had a hard time figuring out what criteria to use. I'm sure if I did this again, I would fill it out differently. There's a million different ways you could do it. There's some great exciting plates on here. There's some that are a little bit more boring, but it's all good. Hopefully you got a little something out of this video. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of these plates? Which ones do you like? Which ones do you not like? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.